Disrupting the narrative. I'm Jeff Stein with today's Iowa Politics Report. News reports this week showed the mayor of New York City essentially saying his city has become overrun by migrants. No room for any more, no city resources to address the influx, etc. Now, your first reaction might be to wonder if governors from states like Texas and Florida had been sending migrants up there in huge numbers. You recall that happened a time or two. A few busloads sent to select places like New York, Martha's Vineyard, etc., Democrat-run areas, with those sending the buses showing a sort of, let's see how you like it attitude. But the reality is not that Republican governors have been shipping migrants around. The reality is that the vast majority of these new arrivals, as they were politely described by Politico, these new arrivals are heading to places like New York City and Chicago on their own. In other words, once they beat the system to get past the border, they make a beeline for blue cities. Now, that reporting was done by none other than the New York Times, republished by Politico. When the top liberal media outlet in the country publishes a piece dispelling the approved narrative about migrants, well, that's a big shift. And it also supports the rebuttal to the original allegations against the GOP governors. Allegations that these folks were bussed across the country against their will. Those interviewed as they got off the buses said they wanted to go to northern big cities, but that was not given as much airtime as discussions by Democrats that the Republicans should be charged with kidnapping. You didn't hear much from the migrants because it didn't fit the narrative. So, why the narrative shift now? Is it to provide cover for the New York City mayor? Clearly, there's no evidence of continued busing from Republican states, and just as clearly, the issue is reaching crisis proportions in those northern blue cities. No different than the border crisis in cities in the U.S. South and the challenges that they have faced since this president took the oath. But now that it's in the major media's backyard, all of a sudden it's drawing attention. I guess where you stand depends on where you sit. And that's the Iowa Politics Report for Friday, September 8th. On Twitter, Instagram, Getter, Threads, and Truth Social at Iowa Politics. I'm Jeff Stein on News Talk 1540 KXEL.